Hello, everyone. I am going to drop these at some point. I know that. That's fine. Hi, everyone. I'm Ziggy Schutz. My pronouns are she, her, and he, him. Mix them up. Confuse your cis friends as much as you like. That's where the gender euphoria is. I am a short story author, and I also signed a novella contract today. And I write fairy tales I retell fairy tales with queer perspectives. I tell stories where the monsters get to have happy endings, because those are the kind of stories I needed as a kid. So they're the ones I write. I'm going to start out with a poem that's actually a little bit more personal, and then don't worry, I promise there's monster ladies coming. But this poem I wrote the day before my preventative mastectomy. I am BRCA2 positive, and as a BRCA2 positive person who is also non-binary but experienced dysphoria because of my surgery, it's been quite bizarre. So of course I wrote a poem about Frankenstein about it, right? And it's what I wanted to start with today. So, yes. Carve me out. The monster has spent many an hour, day, year, learning to love every one of their patchwork pieces, and only when parts of her begin to rot, betraying her in a way only a human's body can, does she realize she has been all too successful. She was not built for sickness, but sickness has found her nonetheless. Borrowed flesh can never be truly vetted, and her creator was all too short-sighted anyhow. It turns out that mortality is part of what makes a person. And so she stands, sure in her personhood, even as it poisons her. Mortality may make us human, but so too do our fingernails, and how we use them to cling to our little lives. So the monster hums as she pulls at the stitches, holding her and her death together. Stitches made with frantic thread replaced with the patient lines of seamstress's hands. Not borrowed from the dead, but built from her own experience. Her hand, her body, a little smaller, a little more scarred. Not made by some mad creature, but by a body that has learned to love itself, both human and monster, and all the mess that comes with them both. And she lives, and she lives, and she lives. All right. And then this story is called Many Hands, Many Mouths. It was published on Spec Magazine, which is a super cool Canadian-based speculative fiction magazine. That is feels very unreal for my story to be in here, not gonna lie. But yes, it's called Many Hands, Many Mouths. There is a many-mouthed thing that haunts this mountain. Its cries can be heard on the wind that whistles through the crevices and valleys that make this mountain range so treacherous. A wailing that gets under the skin and sticks there. Gods, it sounds so sad. What happens to make such a monstrous thing sound so sad? There are many stories traded like coin between those who must travel these roads. Gossip is better than gold in some instances, and more likely to save a life, too. There are many stories, many guesses and rumors. None of them are true, although some are very good stories. Some are true for other creatures far away from these mountains. But none know the true nature of this thing. None bother to get close enough to hear the words, just their tone. They've all heard the stories, after all. The beginnings are as varied as the people who tell them, but the endings are all the same. With its sweet voices, it brings you in. It shares its pain with you, and when you cry with it, it devours you so sweetly you cannot even be angry. It is the nature of monsters to destroy. Everyone knows that. Elijah is a seamstress. It is in their nature, then, to mend. They travel back and forth between the little towns that are scattered through these mountains and valleys, footpaths like stitches trying to connect the communities. They started with fabric, darning socks and mending holes in pockets. Now they specialize in untying knots in relationships and disputes. Clever, callous fingers making neat work of everyday messes. Before today, they had never heard the monster, though of course they've heard of it. But today there was a mudslide, and Elijah had to take a detour, going higher up the mountain than they usually ventured. And they hear it now. A wailing chorus, a tragedy in 3 octaves. Elijah wonders, like so many had before, what happened to make a monster sound so sad? And then, unlike all the others who asked such a question and lived to tell it, they turn off the path and begin to hike up the mountain. Elijah is a seamstress. They are supposed to mend the hurting, untangle the lost. And maybe it is naive to hear monsters cry and long to help, but they'd rather be naive than the kind of person who walks away from such a noise. As they walk, they tug a bit of loose thread from their shirt, start wrapping it around their fingers. They reroute a little stream around the boulder that is blocking it, and it bubbles back a thank you. They smooth out the ruffled feathers of a young crow far above their head. It's a way of marking their trail, like tying ribbons around branches they pass, like bread crumbs. It's a way of announcing themselves. I am just a visitor here, they mutter. I know I am a guest. Thank you for allowing me to walk so easily through your lands. Elijah can't be sure, but they think they hear hesitation in the crying. A hiccup, like it's surprised at the attention. They take that as a good sign, and their whispered words become a constant, detailing what they see as they pass, all the small beats of the world they touch and untangle. Mending like this will not save a realm, it will not win wars, but it will ease a passing or a path, make a song ring more true, or a shout be better heard. It is not possible for one person to fix a world. In 1,000 little ways, Elijah gives it their best shot. If this were a tale one legends were made of, there would be trials for Elijah to face, 3 or 7 or 16. There are so many rules to heroes and their journeys, boxes to hop into like children playing games in the dirt, laughing as the dust gets in their eyes. But this is just something half-finished, unspooling with every step, not even ready for the telling and retelling yet. So it is that Elijah reaches the cave that seems to hold the source of the voices without much trouble at all. Their hands are scraped up from having to scramble up some rocky surfaces. Their knee stings from where they took a fall. But these are just scratches in the grand scheme of things. No great beasts were slain or stepsisters thwarted. Maybe this isn't a story about heroes at all. Maybe this is a monster story. What makes something a monster? Is there a certain ratio of teeth to claws, of cruelty to cleverness? Is it determined by body count, tallies on the wall, or perhaps by how many people whisper the name and then shiver in fear? What if this monster is nameless? What then? Is monster an identity anything can claim? Or is it only something that can be given, not taken, not even if it's the only thing a creature who is misunderstood is allowed to keep? To be monstrous must be a terrible thing. It has to be, or they wouldn't fear it so. There is a monster inside of this cave, in the side of this mountain. There is a tragedy hidden on top of the world. There is a many-mouthed thing that turns towards Elijah when they enter, and Elijah can understand what those mouths are saying now. Please, please, didn't mean to, didn't ask for this, please. Careful what you wish for, says the man who already has the world. We who were 3 and who are now 1 say welcome, welcome, welcome. There are 6 eyes staring, although it has to twist to do so, since the monster's eyes sit on its head like a crown, and so to stare it must spin slow motion. This monster is an ungainly thing, put together with no sense of poetry, rough brush strokes with no regard to how a body might need to bend. Their skin seems to strain against their bones, like even their skeleton disagrees with them. They do not look like they intend to eat Elijah, although their eyes are hungry as they watch them. Hello, Elijah says, because it's only polite. I'm Elijah. The monster, who may be many monsters all tangled in each other, spins faster, spitting out names like baby teeth, like they held some kind of value once when they were children and they can't find a way back to that. Lena, Lucy, Liar, they are names. Whether they ever belonged to this creature before this moment, Elijah is not sure, but that doesn't matter. It's nice to meet you, Lena, Lucy, Liar. Lena's voice is the lowest of them, a soft baritone that rumbles like the earth beneath their feet. Nice, 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 well met and nice besides. Lucy's voice is warbling and high, sing-song. Your mother would call across the fields in just that order. Lena, Lucy, Liar, and Liar is in the middle, steady and true. No, not they, not it, but she and she and she. Elijah nods, steps closer, and they can't help but laugh at that. A giggle that carries in this cave spills out into the slopes beyond. An echo chamber, an amphitheater. What's funny? Where's funny? Please don't laugh. I'm not laughing at you, I promise, Elijah assures her and her and her. It's just funny to me that I am a they and a one, and you are a she and many. We seem well suited for each other. Every single one of this creature's mouths breaks into a smile. We do, all three of them chorus. We do, repeats Elijah, and returns the many grins with a shy one of their own. Then they tug at a loose thread and let the garment unravel. This may take a lot of string. In fact, they wouldn't be surprised if it ripped the whole shirt and a few inches off their hems besides. The stitches that are keeping these monsters as one are old, small and overgrown. But Elijah is young and hasn't yet learned the limits of the world and is therefore limitless. Maybe that makes them a monster too. Maybe all it takes to be a monster is to draw outside of the lines. Elijah takes a deep breath, steadies the thread, and looks at Lena Lucy Liar. Tell me what happened to make a monstrous thing sound so sad? The spinning stops. Everyone is perfectly still. When we're one, starts one. We cannot comfort each other, finishes another. We cannot hold each other, explains the third. Elijah nods and starts to wind the thread around each of their fingers. A complicated pattern that doesn't mean anything at all. That's fine. It isn't about the string. It's about how they can feel it catching and all of the things that ties these three together. Every naming curse, every untrue tale. Would you like to? It is strange to have a monster who is three stare at them like they are the impossible thing. Yes, yes, yes. And Elijah begins to unspin a story. There were once three ladies who were monstrous, many-mouthed and sharp and clever. They smiled easy, content in being three. They would speak in tongues only they knew when they went to do monstrous things, like laying protections around the town they lived in, like healing the sick, like a bed fit for three, with no jealousy or imbalance in sight. To them, monstrous meant challenging, meant wondrous and strange and impossible too. That is not what being a monster is to us, said the townsfolk, and they laughed. Words can mean more than one thing, and both things can be true, said one of them. The ladies who are monsters don't remember now who it was. That's impossible, replied the townsfolk. Yes, said another of the three, and yet, still true. These three ladies were bright, so bright, speaking plain and open, voices carrying where they will. This small town could not contain their brightness, and it spilled over into the valleys all around. Color outside of the lines again. It is cruel to take something that brings someone joy and twist it, turn it against them, and her, and her, and her. It is a tragedy. It is more than enough to make a monstrous thing sad enough to echo through a whole mountain for years and years and years. Elijah's fingers are rubbed raw, skin worn right through in some places. Around them sits their shirt, completely unraveled. They don't even notice they've run out of thread until three hands, moving as one, but not one, just she, and she, and she, reach over and rest on top of Elijah's own. I think that's enough, says Lena. Your hands, cried Lucy. We can fix that, promises Liar. And Lena, and Lucy, and Liar, still together but with space between now. They take Elijah's hands and they speak in their shared tongue, many mouths still but split between three faces. And they do fix it, she and she and she. And Elijah listens to their voices as they echo throughout the caves and beyond, and feels limitless. And then I have one more quick one, just to really do some spooky stuff for Halloween and such. It's from Your Body, It's Not Your Body, which is a very cool punk anthology that was done. It's weird horror and it's body horror. It's all trans folk, and all of the proceeds went to help trans kids in Texas. So I wanted to bring it out and also read just a fun little one to end called Playing House. Sometimes, when she is feeling particularly whimsical, Charlotte imagines herself a scientist. Trade her apron for a lab coat, steak knives for scalpels. Sensible heels would echo more in a laboratory than in this picture-perfect house. But she thinks she would grow to love the sound, especially if it came with a relief from this heat. Tight collar, closed windows, and an oven that takes hours to come to heat. Then she laughs and goes to make sure her fantasizing hasn't let the roast burn. Science is for discoveries, for finding the new. Her job is to keep up the appearances of the old. Comfort, familiarity. It's a lonely job, one that leads to days of puttering around the living room, hours spent making sure it looks as unlived in as possible. Not that that's a difficult task. Her husband works so hard. He has little time for trivial things. For her. Does she look unlived in too, she wonders, as she dabs at the sweat collecting on her neck. Good wives don't perspire. He doesn't care what she does, as long as it's the same as it was the day before, and the day before that. No children, because he needs his quiet. No love to fill her empty heart, because that's for fairy tales. As long as dinner is on the table, he hardly notices she's there at all. So tonight, Charlotte is cooking dinner. Her cleaver makes quick work of bone and fat, a crack of exposed joints hidden under her light hum. This recipe is new, something she's been, experimenting with. Sinews for strength, marrow for memory. She should name her, this creation coming together under her careful hands. All good dishes have a name. The movements are by rote now. Cream for the roux, some blood for color. If she's not paying attention, her quick work of the vegetables could leave her with too few fingers. But who would notice? A timer goes off and she bends to pull the twin cakes from the oven, risen like lungs. She used to think marriage meant freedom. But there are many ways to bake a cake. Her nails are sharp as she drums a pulse into the counter, waiting for the cakes to cool, waiting for the gravy to thicken, waiting for the sound of her husband's car in the driveway. She is no scientist, but her precision is unparalleled. Everything comes together, and by the time she can hear his keys in the door, all that's left is the garnish. Her wedding ring will do nicely. The memory of their vows tastes like fine wine, like the wine in her hand as she listens to her husband enter, already complaining. When your heart is empty, it's no trouble to rip it out of your chest. It makes the perfect appetizer, tender and mild, and she watches his face twist into something like shock, something new. Welcome home, darling, she says, and the body she's assembled on their fine mahogany table sits up, just as she shoves her husband into his seat. We made you dinner, Charlotte says. Hungry? Starving, her dish replies. She thinks she will call her Penelope. She is beautiful. Charlotte is a good wife. Doesn't she deserve something good in return? The meal is good, and her husband in his shop is delicious. Every shared bite. Thanks so much, y'all.
And so this event is also not only for the poetry and storytelling, but also, as in this case, a launch for the monthly micro gallery, the Little Gallery. So the artist of this month is Jinx Isaacs, and the Watchful Eye is the series that is on display for the month. So if other folks that you know haven't gotten the chance to come today, they have the entire month to peruse through the shop and come and see the wonderful pieces that Jinx has made. And I'll just quickly read their bio, or read his bio for, it's also, I think, over in the corner maybe. Jinx Isaac is a queer trans-based artist out of so-called Vancouver. He specializes in mixed media, makeup artistry, and painting. An avid lover of nature, animals, and the beauty of decomposition, these themes can often be found in his work. Jinx's Watchful Eye series has been ongoing since 2018, with 65 and more, I think now. 68. Yes. Entries to date. Each eye represents a protective entity to watch over the recipient and their household. So they're currently a lovely Watchful Eye in the bookshop, and you could bring them home as well.
There are also sliding scale available to those who may need it.
Yeah, so totally talk to Jinx about commissions and or about sliding scale, and if you have any question about any of the pieces, Jinx is totally available to answer questions. Yeah.
I came dressed as my inner child because I thought that we were dressing up, but I guess that I came as my inner child. You're welcome. I'm gonna read my bio.
Yes.
Reverend Cat Webb, they them, is a multi-hyphenate weirdo. They identify as a badass, nerdy, disabled, genderqueer witch, a curse-breaking solo dyke mom, a cosplaying wedding celebrant, a death educator, a trauma-informed grief coach, and reverend of metaphysics. Their work through Love Transforms Metaphysical Ministry is crucial and unique, providing a deeply needed blending of spiritual and scientific healing.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Okay. Their work through Love Transforms Metaphysical Ministry is crucial and unique, providing a deeply needed blending of spiritual and scientific healing frameworks for the souls of survivors harmed or oppressed by mainstream religious dogma. I can be found at lovetransforms.ca. Okay. So, I'm going to be reading from my very first zine, which is called Titans Need Love Too. And it's T for Titan poems for the Divinus Feralis, Reverend Cat Webb. Okay, the first one is called Sacred, Holy, Dirty Work. Humans incarnate, becoming holy after many lifetimes of neglect and inability to face the space between heartbeats, sacred. I see the Chiron mighty in your wound song. I feel your spirit song coming through. The healing balm that you unearth, the gems and mire of things expired. I'm only holding a torch at the crossroad in sacred purpose and desire, holy. The lies you told to deny your divinity, the right to say no revoked and rebuked, told you were messy, complicated, lost, dirty, and found, and again and again, and found again and again, and found again and again. Choosing the path of healing, reforged flames danced upon, we laughed in and reminded of work. Dear one, you are sacred birthright, divine in your own light, psychopomp the paradigm. You are incarnate sacred medicine. By walking in authenticity, you're making all of us free. So one of the words that I just used is psychopomp, and it's a Greek word, and it means somebody who is aware of the soul after it leaves the body and assists the soul in getting to the gates of the land of the dead. As a psychopomp, I'm not able to go past that gate, but I take them to the gate, and it's a ceremonial process that I've been doing since my early teen years. So I just wanted to put some preface into that. I'm literally a Ghostbuster.
Hell yeah.
Now I know who to call.
Yeah. Exactly. And so now I'm going to read one about being a psychopomp. Being a little weird psychopomp kid. Ghost girl haunting all my thoughts. Day bleeding through with psychopomp dreams woven taut. Soul split, each of the two dissolving the one. I am becoming more, something else, undone. Chiron is strong, recounting my sins. I see my wounding melt into medicine. There's part of my past that is a door stuck shut on my dead name and the space that she was. KMJ is wounded, only speaking in shades of pain. Kat, however, has learned joy in the space between. Hecate reminds of sweetness flowing like a deluge. She says opportune tomorrow, but first you have to choose. Woven together, each of the two, bright blessings. Internal transmutation of wild worldly lessons. Ghost being integrates, accepted and loved as they are. a child of Hecate, psychopomp healer, and sacred star. This one is called Tech Support for Time Travelers. You told me to check my fear, and you are not wrong, my sharp-witted witch. However, you must also check yourself, 'cause fear is a tricky fucker. Together, we must choose to cast spells that repel shadows and illusions, that create swells, squalls, and fears of being drowned in the past. It is enough to witness through the eyes of a storm, writhing and arising from a chasm of echoed silence and desires denied. Your beautiful reclaiming of power in these moments of no. I see the work it takes for you to love yourself enough to speak. This is holiness. This is sacred. This, now. We breathe. Here. Now, and now, and now. That is all that there is, and that's all that there ever was. This moment of pause, liberation. Once again, rhythmic breathing sinks us in time, fleeing, feeling, falling, floating, trusting deeply in the intersections between divine collision, collusion, collaboration. The space between souls that are relearning require reminding, remembering always. Love, like trust, takes time and effort. And I recall it was best said in the Holy Scripture of the Beastie Boys. It takes a second to wreck it. It takes time to build. You gotta chill. So I offer you my heart in hand. However, my pace has been slipped loose of time in learning to weave my dance with the divine. So let us build what is new and needed for as long as time will allow. It will be sublime, you and I aligned. Speak with me about what breaks your soul. Tell me what can make you whole. I pray you can rise and do the same, and only speak love when you say my name. Perhaps we could maybe co-evolve through time, reclaiming sacred self and other, whole and unafraid. Becoming braver together, honoring the storms, but knowing that the sweetness of truth on your breath of the beloved. Compassion reflected in gaze, facing truth even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. So after witnessing this bounty that I bring, you must understand something, honey-tongued being. A tongue may become strong in story spinning and wit, but babe, honestly, it's only truth that gets me wet. Vow only to speak your needs for safety and connection into this next breath, to build a better way with me, because you could be my divine queen bee. Remembering vulnerability makes me hard, shedding egos ecstatically entwined, this moment, now in the ecosystem of the divine. This realness makes us invisible, invincible. Co-sign here if you're one of my kind. Should I do another one?
Yes.
Okay, another psychopomp one because it's the season of ghost busting. Okay. A date with a psychopomp, aka I wasn't joking when I said I was a ghostbuster. You giggled and nodded along as your brain and heart caught in a twister, desperately trying to comprehend the 12th house torrential downpour of sacred information flowing from the holy rivulets of life-giving waters from my mouth to your parched shores. In your eyes, I saw a raw fear of being washed away, and in fleeting moments you wondered if the unending thirst, the unending longing and drought was really so bad. I mean, it was only leaving you stupefied and mummified, high and dry, clinging to the dusty bone bonds of the dead, but you know, at least it was known. I ask you now to remember all of the days and ways that you prayed for healing, evolution, to be reborn. So be brave now, girl, knowing this rain is the only path that truly sustains is a love transformed. So no need to quake when they appear and lovingly shake their thunder thighs before thee. Know it is time to receive your blessings, bitch, and wash away the debris with the Valkyrie. Hashtag TLDR, to surmise, yes, my pussy is haunted, and it's time for me to kiss away the skeletons in your closet.
Yeah,
I don't know how much time you have.
So there's just for enough for one.
Okay.
You have
This
time
one's
for
short.
one more.
This one's short, this one's short. Okay. So this is called Universe One Song. Long ago, left for dead, hung on the hook, yet the high priestess prayed. Somehow the heart beats still, rhythm reminiscent, yesterday, far away, becoming whole again. Languages lost and found, exchanged energies, feral divinities, frenzied electricities. I'm hungry for substance, not story, longing to be devoured and fed. Lips and hands and holy forms, I await your tongue and fingers' sweetness. This is our shared purpose, driven by this meaning-making machine. Dancing on the tides of time, we sing a new universe into being. Yay.
Thank you so much.
Can we buy your zines?
Yes, they're over there. There are zines and there are stickers. I have zines and stickers. They're over there.
Santiago.
Thank you. When I found out about this reading series, I threw my name in the hat, and Taz messaged me and was like, okay, we have the October event all set up, so you can do November. And I was like, I mean, I do have spooky poems, so if you want me to do October, that's cool. And they said yes, so then I was like, shoot, now I have to actually bring my spooky poems, and I realized that a lot of my poetry is scary to me because I know what it's about, but it might not necessarily be a spooky poem. But I think I edited it down and brought my A game. And to me, there is nothing scarier than climate change. So we'll start with 2 poems about climate change. Okay. This first one's called The Hottest Day in History for a Week. Does summer get caught in your hair as you wander the suburb, cold drink melting, back slick like a strip mall ice rink, as summer fucks on the sidewalk, in the middle of the road, over cars, to land on your cheek and copulate? Something is about to erupt from the earth. We can feel it, under our feet, all at once, as if out of nowhere, even when it happens every year. We wait with atomic bated breath. I want to scream. Do you scream? Something hot is squirming just under our skin. Something has grown wings and is smothering the horizon. Somewhere all of us is burning, and somewhere everything is burning all at once. And then the only thing you need to know for this next poem is that there's a name in it. It's Iztaccíhuatl. This is the name of a volcano in Mexico. It's called sunburn season. Kilauea erupts and Mexico shakes, and Vancouver dips its toe into the Pacific to check if it's warm. It's sunburn season. Careless, bikini backstrapless, tan lineless unless you fall asleep under uneven UV English Bay rays. Freeze a water bottle just to watch plastic sweat. Play frisbee with seagulls and stranded whales. If volcanoes boil over, just redirect the lava. If sea levels rise, move your towel up. If the big one hits, do you know what to do? If the big one hits, do you know what to do? If my apartment complex splits in two, let it. If the courtyard cracks open, fine. The strata will cut the grass around the somewhere in spray-on houses, Retirees blast the AC and undress to go swimming. Somewhere, brittle pipelines spill what the earth held from us. Somewhere, ash clouds cancel vacations. Somewhere, on bleached beaches, girls sleep like Istaxihuatl and rise at sundown, red and burning as if they had erupted. So spooky poems. I recently drafted a spooky poem, not for this event, but thinking about this event, and I was very pleased when I managed to put it all together, and not in the usual way where I like enter a fugue state and state in the poem, but like I actually like went through my drafts and I was like, okay, how's this poem gonna work? And then I did it all, and I don't know if that's because I was medicated or just because I got lucky. It's not as scary as I want it to be, but there is some body horror in it, and there will be in the rest of the poems as well. So I just want to put that out there. If you need to step out or block your ears, listen to some music, whatever, that's all cool with me. It's called The Bends. When two boys kiss, there is something growing between their throats. A turgid tendril of heat, a critical meltdown, sun, a wish. When a boy who's not a boy reaches into a boy's jeans, their capillaries rip apart and entwine with his, like bloody hyphae, burrow into fleshy roots. Bones glow hot from within, searing tissue, branding touch into skin, biting pleasure into the edges of their embrace. A girl takes a boy, drinks from him, wraps herself around his pleasure, her voice around his cavernal body. She transforms, disassembles and reconfigures, a labyrinth, hubris and the wax wings, an embryo of burning confusion, a volatile dissolution of satisfaction, all mixed signals and sensations as her gender encircles his spine. She becomes the ardent machine the god comes from. Demon core or divine sublimation, she doesn't care. Where's the fun in sex that doesn't transmute a few genomes or melt a bite off a glacier? The love between a girl and a boy who doesn't care what her gender is can take over the world, cover it in its slimy red tar to fill our lungs until our name tastes different in our throat. Swallow, gulp, gasp, tongue heavy with a wrung language, a fish raptured from the deep, so quickly its swim bladder spills from gentle openings until it learns to breathe. A murder, a congregation of crows, a funeral, a dusk, a crowing crow crowd crowding Burnaby's sky. Their wings are black, fertile earth that unraveled and detached from the ground in ribbons, rose up to mimic the night. I dream of the forests that remain, how they transmute into coarse black smoke if we are careless or if we are uncaring, or if I do nothing while we devour the forest to feed the farm and the factory, and when I do nothing. How closely smoke resembles the storm, but only one illuminates. I do nothing, stand still like cedars on the waterfront when lightning strikes. Do you see the way their spines bend? When the wind slows, they will all have bent back, or snapped into, or uprooted and toppled, sending crows flying. But when the lightning strikes, all we see is a moment as it splinters in the atmosphere. We will learn what survives at sunrise. Okay, so I brought two fan poems for today. One is an actual fan poem that I wrote, and the other is a poem by my friend Brandon O'Brien. I say friend even though maybe we're more like online acquaintances. We both know each other from role-playing game spaces. But I want to be his friend because he's really cool. His poetry is amazing, so I'm manifesting it.
We'll manifest it with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then, so I'll do that one second. And the first one, oh, and you can, this is his book. It's really, really good. It's about blackness and how it intersects with culture. And you can get it from his website or from here as well. You can order it and they'll arrive in like 2 or 3 weeks. I think my copy came even quicker than that when I got it at my work. So, and then the first one is from my favorite podcast, which is Friends of the Table, which is a tabletop actual play podcast. This is from their 2nd season. It's about getting thrown out into empty space. Detachment. Sometimes in orbit when I couldn't sleep, I thought of the stories you told me, of animals that would never look the same, flowers with names we don't use much anymore, and breathing blue skies. But you're not here now. I'm alone. And I'm trying so hard to sleep. I'm trying so hard, Ibex. Maybe I'm too old for bedtime stories now, but I wish I could hear your voice. It's so dark here. How did I get here? Where am I, Ibex? What happened to the divine, the new one? I remember now. Where I am and why it's so dark. If I close my eyes, I can pretend I'm a bird of prey. I'm soaring. If I try hard enough, I can still hear your voice. Okay, and this one is called Cthulhu Asks for J. Cole's Autograph. It's by Brandon O'Brien. So good. Ask a creature of contradiction and unfathomable mathematics about the paradox of how does a man better himself in the same sentence he uses bitch, preceding praise for promiscuity. Maybe you're only saved from the mayhem by thinking from the basement. Cole slides out the front of a Bentley, rented. True power is spending money on transient glamour, and their eyes meet in the meat of the avenue. He ain't headed nowhere in particular. She's in the area for him. You can hear bluebirds somewhere. She can still unravel the fact that he says the word bitch 8 times in the first 5 minutes of meeting. Those 2 times he winds awake. Those of 2 times he winds awake that he should stop. But they aren't even the last 2. She doesn't care. If anyone needs rescue last, it's her. She smiles at every scratch of wit, asks coquettish for an autograph, a pic for the gram. She takes a blue Sharpie to her chest. He takes a blue Sharpie to her chest, barely smiles into the camera. Someone shouts across the street that she should stay away from him. He waves the shout off as haterade, as the girl god distends her jaw. Don't save her. Okay, I got a little bit of time left, so I'm going to do 2.5 more poems. Yeah, these next 2, I didn't know how to end the first one and I didn't know how to start the second one, so I put them together.
That's so smart.
The first one in particular, I often just like bolted on before other poems, Anyways. The salmon will return and I won't have moved all year, calcified or fossilized, or a leaf that fell onto sidewalk and never decomposed, boots sunk in the hatchery mud as Hoy Creek swells to weaken sedimentary ankles, and the water shifts and the riverbanks flinch. Crows pick at perfected lawns, fidgety scavengers, strata antagonizers peel off scabs, tug at the edges of scars, claw at what's wriggling underneath the skin. Why does it hurt? Why does it hurt? Why does it bleed? ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué? Porque aquí, en este territorio, y aquí, en este edificio. The wind is a warning, but the rain falls like laughter. The weather is warming, but gray drowns pine beetles and swallowtails and honeybees. The days are hot and wet on the pavement. And overnight, where they dug a skyrise-sized hole as if to build the deepest community pool ever seen, a crane mushroomed up in the construction lot across the street. The tallest diving board you've ever seen. Maybe, if it keeps raining, we can all go swimming. Okay. And I'm gonna try to do this one from memory. It's called Inundation. At 4 p.m., the city sinks through orange and pink and purple twilight pelagic zones. At sunset, bioluminescent windows blink on and peel off skyscrapers to drift into air currents. If we're lucky and the night is dark, stars will bloom like coral polyps cycling high over suburban periphera. The city is a reef, all of it, all of it, all of us, choking on carbon dioxide, but having learned to thrive in the sting of the anemone, how do you leave it behind? Catastrophe leaks from the sky into the ocean. It stains our names, our bones, our skin, our homes, until the reef becomes a shipwreck. Deeper and deeper, deeper. A seafloor carcass obscured in the abyss, lit only by the unlikely halo of submarines that dive down with metal and glass exoskeletons, terrifying as angels in search of life. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Santiago and Kat, there you are.
I'm here.
Ziggy and Jinx for being also the featured artist for the month. And if any of you are either interested in performing here, stories, poetry, or visual art, you can just talk to me, I'm Taz, or you can reach out on social media at Cross and Crows or through me, Taz Solace, over the interwebs.
Lovely.
Yeah, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.